This has to be one of the workings of the autumn. Wigston Rail Services 20060, 20023, 20028 and 20055 work an RHTT move from Leicester to Nottingham Eastcroft. In this third edition of VideoSim, the return of Wigston Rail Services. Passenger traffic in the south. Class 66s on freight. And RHTT working. A look back to 2019 with unit drags behind heritage locos. Class 47s both past and present. Class 73s on the AVR. Steam locomotives on mainline routes. Various stock moves. A look at the construction of LRL's second depot at Warsop. RHTT action on the Wherry Lines. Various HBRF moves around the GCR. Rail tours behind heritage attraction. And finally, a look at the Renford-based RHTT diagram. Thanks to a new investor, Wigston Rail Services was able to stay afloat during August and September, and on the 1st of October, 20060 and 20023 were hired in by DB Schenker to move a loaded steel train on the 7 Mike 20 from Peterborough to Doncaster. This is the first leg of the journey out of Peterborough. The 20s are seen again on the Power through Grantham. Our final shot of the steel train sees the Class 20s heading over a crossing towards Doncaster. On the following day at Peterborough, the 20s are seen again, operating the 0 Zulu 20 Peterborough to Leicester LIP. After changing ends, 20023 leads the train to Leicester. Leicester LIP is the central hub for Wigston Rail Services. Here the 20s are seen just outside of Loughborough on the Midland Mainline on their last leg of the journey to Leicester. On the 10th of October, the Wigston choppers were used on a test run for an RHTT set, which ran from Leicester to Nottingham Eastcroft and back. Leading is 20060 and 20023. Now on the return from Nottingham is 20055 and 20028 en route to Leicester. The line from London to Faversham sees a vast amount of commuter traffic. Here, a Class 395 is seen passing through Higham with a semi-stopper service for Ramsgate. The British Rail Class 395 Javelin is a dual-voltage electric multiple unit passenger train built by Hitachi Rail as part of the Hitachi A-Train AT300 family for high-speed commuter services on HS1 and elsewhere in the Southeastern franchise. The whole fleet is operated by Southeastern. The Javelins are one of three main sources of motive power on the Southeastern network. Here, 395017 is seen arriving at Rochester with a train for Ramsgate. Now we see a Thameslink commuter service taken by a Class 700. Operating from Rainham to Luton is 5 Papa 44. This is taken by 700-053, which is calling at Rochester Platform 1. The Class 700 is a passenger train from the Desiro City family built by Siemens Mobility. It is capable of operating on 25 kV AC overhead lines or 750 volt DC from Third Rail. 115 train sets were built between 2014 and 2018 for use on the Thameslink network as part of the Thameslink programme in the United Kingdom. As of 2021, they are operated by Jovia Thameslink Railway. The last EMUs we're going to be looking at is the Class 375s. These suburban units tend to operate from London to Ramsgate and Dover Priory. The The Class 375 Electrostars are electric multiple units that were built by Bombardier Transportation at Derby Lichchurch Lane Works from 1999 to 2005. The class form part of the Electrostar family of units, which also includes classes 357, 376, 377, 378, 379 and 387. They're the most numerous type of EMU introduced since the privatisation of British Railways. These units form the basis of Southeastern's mainline fleet. From 2016 to 2019, Class 375s were taken to Derby for refurbishment. Here, ROG's 37884 is seen departing Faversham with 2 sets of 375 units in ex-Connex livery. The 37 is seen thundering through the Kent countryside at Tannham on its way to Derby. By the end of 2019, all 375s were successfully refurbished and repainted in the new Southeastern livery. Strood Railway Station became a junction with the opening of the first section of the East Kent Railway between Strood and Chatham on the 29th of March 1858. The London, Chatham and Dover Railway soon opened their own route from Rochester towards London, the first portion as far as Bickley, opening in the 3rd of December 1860. Today, the station sees a variety of traffic ranging from passenger services to freight taken by Class 66s. Here, 66708 is seen on an aggregate train bound for Tunbridge. The 66 originated at Hoo Junction, which is a rail yard on the North Kent line near the village of Higham. The yard remarshals wagon traffic on the main line and from the branch. The majority of traffic is aggregate wagons, with steel strip carriers which are also present. Infrastructure units and ballast trains also use the yard. Container traffic from Thamesport used to pass through, but this flow ceased around 2014. After a driver change, 66708 creeps up to the signal to allow pathing of a passenger train. (700-023) is now seen arriving into Strood with a train from Rainham. (66-708) now gets the clear road ahead for Tunbridge.
Please remain behind the yellow line at all times. Trains pass through this station at high speed and can cause turbulence.
Now we see somewhat of a rarity from Hugh Junction as 66712 passes through Strood light engine towards Tunbridge. Now another rarity at Strood as we see a DB Schenker loco move with 66113 leading the train to Hugh Junction. (700.013) can now be seen leaving the station with a train bound for Rainham via Rochester. As darkness descends, a Class 395 is seen arriving into Strood with a train from London St Pancras. As the 395 departs with a train bound for Ramsgate, 395009 arrives in the station with a train from Dover. Finally, number 9 departs Strood with a train for London St Pancras. With a busy flow of passenger and freight workings, it is to no surprise that Strood Station is a hotspot for rail enthusiasts. During the RHTT season, DB Schenker Class 66s are commonly used on the RHTT circuit on the Southeastern Mainline. Here, 66040 and 66115 are seen passing through Sittingbourne. Finally, 66040 and 66115 are seen passing through Higham on the return journey to Hoo Junction on the 20th of November 2023. The veteran brush type 4s, or Class 47, can still be seen regularly on the mainline, operating rail tours to and from locations. Here, 47848 and 47815 are seen operating a rail tour towards East Grinstead, leaving London Victoria on the 1st of October 2021.
Remain behind the yellow line at all times. Trains pass through the station at high speed and can cause turbulence.
Later that day, the 47s are seen again on their return trip through Merstham, this time led by 47815. Now at Colston South, the 47s fly through at speed. A total of 512 Class 47s were built at Brush's Falcon Works in Loughborough and at British Railways Crew Works between 1962 and 1968, which made them the most numerous class of British mainline diesel locomotive, and one of the most successful ones at that. After a brief stop at East Croydon, 47815 is now pathed towards London Victoria. Class 47s are also seen regularly aiding steam tours. Here 47815 is seen operating down the East Coast Way on the 30th of April 2022. 47848 now is seen at Doncaster operating a very special train to the National Railway Museum of York, with the world's most famous steam locomotive Flying Scotsman on the rear of the train. Now we take a look at some rare footage of Class 47s working in the late 1980s. Here 47474 is seen on an express passenger working for Blackpool North. On a late afternoon service, 47407 is seen on a semi-fast service for Preston. The Class 47s were ideal workhorses for passenger duties along the Blackpool branches. After gaining a green signal, 47420 is seen on the power, heading towards Blackpool North. Snowy scenes in 1986 as 47407 is seen with a passenger working for Preston. In the opposite direction, 47401 is seen on a train bound for Blackpool North. "47407 again, this time on a dry day in 1986, departing Blackpool North for Preston. We are now going to look at a range of subjects around Preston Station in 1986. 47561 is seen departing the station with a semi-fast service for Blackpool North. It's morning at Preston in 1986 and 47584 County of Suffolk is seen backing onto a train for Stranraer Harbour. The 1020 from Preston to Stranraer Harbour departs on time, with 47584 providing haulage. The 1031 to Glasgow Central arrives, being hauled by 47600. Various Class 47s were named around this time period, 47-600 being named Dewey St David. It now departs on time for Glasgow Central. The 1041 to London Euston now arrives, taken by 47421 the Brontes of Haworth. In the opposite platform, the unique Intercity 47469 is seen passing through with a mail train. Seven 361 Willerton Endeavour is now seen departing platform 7 for Harwich. The London Euston service, taken by 47421, now gains the road to depart. Class 47s can also be seen as regulars on the Northern Trans-Pennine route. Here 47639 is seen departing Leeds for Manchester Victoria. The date once again 1986. 47461 Norman Turner GC is now seen departing Leeds with a train bound for York. Heading over to Manchester now, 47457 Pennine is seen departing with a train bound for Leeds. The weather on this day was not the most fitting for train spotting. In the late 1980s, Class 47s could be seen replacing Class 40s on tanker trains. Here, 47123 departs Manchester Victoria. Finally, 47490 is seen departing Manchester Victoria with a tanker train for Leeds. On the Sunday of the Ashbourne Valley Railway Diesel Gala, Tunbridge East owned 73126 was paired up with another visiting 73, number 73106. Here the pair are seen departing Middleton. The pair are seen again, now departing Millers Green, with a train bound for Hopton. Godfrey Hole is an excellent vantage point for enthusiasts, with its rolling hills and excellent scenery. Here the pair are seen passing by, giving it large towards Hopton. Finally, the pair head towards Millers Green, departing Hopton, with 73106 leading. We head over to Crewe now, where we see Wyatt Rail owned Stania Princess 46207 Princess Arthur of Connacht on a loaded test run. 5 Zulu 38 Crewe LSL to Tyseley Steam Trust. "46207 is now seen passing through Den Lane, still en route to Tyseley. Having stopped at Stafford for a late-running 1 Golf 55 Liverpool Lime Street to Birmingham New Street service, 46207 gets the road for Wolverhampton. Finally, after being signal checked, 46207 powers through Pancras. Now a real rarity as we take a look at some archive footage of Branchline steam in Wales. This footage is taken on the Saltney Junction Branch on a very early late summer morning in 1963, and we're just in time to see the departure of a down ballast train from Riddermewing Quarry. Stania 8F number 48455 is seen propelling the train out of the quarry towards the head shunt. This locomotive was built in 1944 at Swindon and is currently stabled a few miles away at Mould Junction, This locomotive is a regular on the ballast trains from Ridamuin. The train is brought to a stand at the stopboard and the driver whistles to the signalman to say that he's ready to depart. After setting the road, the signalman clears the head shunt exit, which is interlocked with the down starter, hence the two signals come off together. As the train moves off in the early morning sunshine and clears the crossover, the signalman returns the exit signal and then the starter as the train descends the bank and into the morning mist. There will be more from the Saltney Junction Branch archive another time. We head over to Wyatt Rail Limited's former site here at Lowestoft, where we catch 37410 Aluminium 100 shunting stock in preparation for a rail tour. After starting up, the locomotive heads to the head shunt just opposite the station. (37410) is one of the batch of the Class 37-4s, which are one of the most useful variants of Class 37, which was upgraded to supply electric train heat in the 1980s. This made them useful for a variety of passenger services. Towards the end of its life, 37410 was based at Eastfield in Scotland. After being purchased by Wyatt Rail, they were intent on painting it in a fictional ScotRail livery to commemorate this. After picking up the first half of the coach in stock, the 37 heads up towards the head shunt once again, opposite Lowestoft station. Now propelling the stock, the 37 heads back up towards the sidings to collect the second half of the train. Now that both halves of the train are fully connected, 37410 can be relieved of duty. Since the arrival of Wyatt Rail, Lowestoft can be quite a hotspot for enthusiasts. During the late summer and through the autumn time, LRL infrastructure trains were a regular sight on the normally dormant High Marnham test track. LRL had purchased the former site of Welbeck Colliery, as well as the 3.5 mile branch to the former site. LRL will use the site as a place to store locos and stock awaiting work. The new site will be known as Warsop Sidings. During this time, 37428 is seen on the 6G37 Towton North Yard to Welbeck Colliery run round. Passing the disused Clipston Triangle is 37205 with 37074 on the 6 kilo 31 Tuxford to Welbeck auto ballasters. This was 37074's last official run with LRL, being stored for the remainder of the year before being sold to WRL. As mentioned previously, LRL won the contract for the new RHTT diagram over the Wherry Lines. The 3rd of October marked the first run, with 37683 and 37229 approaching Brundle Gardens with the 3 Sierra 40 Norwich Jubilee Sidings to Norwich Jubilee Sidings via Yarmouth and Lowestoft. The pair are now seen approaching Acle bound for Great Yarmouth. After reversing at Yarmouth, the train is seen approaching Reedham en route back to Norwich. During the early days of the diagram, the train reversed at Norwich Crown Point before heading back through Reedham to Lowestoft. In later days, the train would reverse at Brundle instead of Norwich. After reversing at Lowestoft, the train heads back through Alton Broad en route back to Norwich Jubilee Sidings. A few days later, and 37683 is now paired with ex-Wigston Rail Services 37515. Despite having a new full yellow end fitted, it still carries the original WRS livery. After reversing at Yarmouth, the train heads through one of Britain's least used stations. Having reversed at Norwich Crown Point, the train is seen passing through Buckingham en route to Lowestoft. Later on in the month, and 229 is seen with a now rather mucky 37515 passing Buckingham. Passing Linwood a couple of days later is 37689, making its first appearance on the diagram paired with 37683. By this time, the train no longer reversed at Norwich, and now after reversing at Great Yarmouth, the train arrives into Brundall, ready to reverse back towards Reedham. For the first time in the season, 37229 was paired with 37689, seen passing Acle en route to Yarmouth. The 30th of October saw a very interesting occurrence. 37689 leads the diagram to Yarmouth with 37515, and shortly after passing Acle, 689's horn became stuck. This lasted until the issue could be sorted at Yarmouth. However, this was not the last time 689 would have an issue during the season. The 1st of November saw 20165 and 20902 running as 20060 added to the RHTT pool. Here they are seen passing through Cantley en route to Lowestoft. 20060 is owned by AVR and is on long-term hire to LRL. After reversing at Lowestoft, the choppers head for Norwich. The 5th of November saw 20165 unusually paired with 37689, seen here passing Brundall Gardens en route for Yarmouth. A few days later, and 37428 makes its first appearance on the circuit, having replaced 37229 in the pool. Here it's seen with 37689 passing a very wet Brundall. On this day, the train ran to Lowestoft first and then reversed at Brundall for Yarmouth. Here the set are seen passing through Summer Leighton. The departure at Lowestoft saw 37689 suffer its second issue of the season, this time suffering with low power, and is seen struggling to depart as a healthy 37428 pushes from the rear. For the majority of the rest of the run, 37428 did most of the work, and is seen here departing Yarmouth en route back to Norwich. Our final view of the Wherry Busters sees 20165 and 20060 back on the set, most likely standing in for the poorly 37689, passing through Brundall en route to Great Yarmouth. HBRF operate a wide variety of trains on the GCR network, the most predominant one being the aggregate runs, which happen on a Sunday and Monday. Here, a trio of 59s are seen operating a Sunday service to Ashcott Quarry through Brimsley. Now we witness the return trip on the Monday, this time with 59301 and 37859 leading the train. Our final shot of the aggregates see the pair passing through Brimsley en route to HW. On the 12th of October 2023, HBRF were contracted to work Night Star sleeper trains between Fatherwell and St Ashcart. This service was short-lived, being withdrawn after a month of operation. Leading the train is HW's newly acquired Class 37, 37659, formerly 37679. After being saved from a scrap heap, 37679 or 37659 has had a variety of modifications, such as brand new light clusters fitted and new horns, taken from a Class 755. The Night Star service operates express from Ashcot to Giles Mount. After calling at Giles, it then continues its journey non-stop to Fatherwell via Falkingham and Goughlin. Rail Tours made a considerable amount of appearances during the autumn on the GCR network. Here 33204 leads the Canterbury Rail Tour into Fatherwell. These are what's known as a Class 33 Crompton, ordered in 1957 and built for the southern region of British Railways between 1960 and 1962. (33204) is a Class 33/2. This is one of 12 locomotives which were built with narrow bodies to allow them to work through the narrow tunnels between Tunbridge Wells, Kent and Hastings in Sussex. These were nicknamed Slim Jims, originally numbered D6586 to D6597, then later renumbered to 33201 to 33212. rear of the train is a pair of brush type 2s, designated Class 31. The tour is now seen heading through Bestbridge, with its destination of Giles Mount. Now at Giles, the tour reverses, this time with the Class 31s leading the train to Renford Central. (31271) and 31134 have recently been certified for mainline running. Originally the Class 31s were known as Class 30 and were built by Brush Traction from 1957 to 1962. They were numbered in two series, D5500 to D5699 and D5800 to D5862. The train now reverses back to Giles Mount via the Goughlin Loop circuit. The cameraman got a rare opportunity for a cab ride down towards Goughlin. Now back at Giles Mount, we bid farewell to the Canterbury Rail Tour, led by 31271. On the 27th of October, a rare opportunity arose to see 4106 operate a rail tour to Ashcott Quarry. This tour was appropriately named the Ashcott Quarryman. The Whistler is seen heading light through Giles Mount to Mainstay Freight Yard, where it will collect the coaching stock. Morsfoot offers an excellent vantage point. 4106, now connected to its coaching stock, is seen thrashing through the station with 2401 and 2402 on the rear. The tour was hosted and operated by HBRF, starting at Giles Mount and calling at Goughlin en route to Ashcott Quarry. At Ashcott Quarry, the 40 runs round the train and connects to the other end. It then leads a triple-headed, non-stop run to Giles Mount. Our final shot of this tour sees the train departing from Ashcott Quarry. In November 2023, RUS-owned 47583 made its debut on the GCR network. On the 10th of November, the locomotive is seen operating a rail tour to Chelston Road, here making a crew stop at Sellercroft. The 27th of October saw the arrival of two new resident locos to the LRL fleet. These are in the form of Class 68 locomotives, 68135 and 68136. Here the pair are seen being delivered from Leesminster RTC to Saltmarsh. Painted in unique fictitious Intercity and ScotRail liveries, the Class 68s were purchased for the purpose of providing new, modern and reliable locomotives to the LRL fleet. Our final shot of LRL's new 68s see them passing through Giles Mount. On the 4th of October, Rydal Rail's 66038 lease with HBRF ended, and fellow RRL Loco 37429 was used to tow the shed from Hestercombe to RRL's depot at Baxton. On the 2nd of November 2023, Hestercombe Workshops were hosting an open day. Various operating companies supplied visiting locomotives to the event. Here are some scenes days before the event of LRL and Rydal Rail locomotives heading towards Hestercombe for the event. Now at the open day proper, and SRS and Rydal Rail Class 37s takes centre stage with a Class 43 HST. The Class 28 Kobo is one of Prototype Locomotive Preservation's flagship locomotives. Visiting alongside their Class 28 were their new build D16 class locomotive and Bullied Leader. These rather unusual and unique designed locomotives were quite an attraction to the enthusiasts. Harry Needle Railways and Colas Rail also took part in the event, supplying 56078 and Class 37s, 37607 and 37610. Rydal Rail supplied two Class 37s, 37671 and 37429. They also supplied one of their sheds, 66038. There was plenty of action to be seen at the open day, from start-up demonstrations, horn battles and short loco moves. For the purposes of the open day, public trains to St Ashcot were temporarily postponed. However, this gave the rare opportunity for passengers to ride on one of the two heritage thumper units, which were shuttling between Brimsley and Goughlin throughout the day. Visitors to the open day would get off at Hestercombe Halt. They will then walk to the Hestercombe Workshops entrance to join the shuttle train, which will take them to the main event. This shuttle service was operated by a Class 14 Teddy Bear and support coach. The Class 14 was supplied by the Marston Vale Heritage Railway. Whilst awaiting construction of their new depot at Saltmarsh TMD, LRL's entire fleet of locomotives were temporarily based at Hestercombe Workshops. This also gave visitors opportunity to get up close and personal to LRL's newly purchased Class 68. 37905, 906 and 37428 were also on display. 37905, or D6836, at this present moment in time was used as a super shunter around the HW works. Before receiving some major repair work, 2304 was allowed to be taken out of the works to be temporarily on display for the event. As well as LRL, British Locomotive Studios was visiting for the event. Their stand contained various merchandise for sale, including enamel mugs, pens, as well as a trophy on display, commemorating their recently hit 1K subscribers on YouTube. Jordan Devison's steam locomotive, Lady Anne, has become quite a symbol for BLS in recent times, and could be seen as a static display beside the stand. The 15-inch gauge Willem Beck could also be seen at the event, visiting from the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway. LRL's information stand gave enthusiasts all the information that they needed to know about their current fleet. Days later, and locomotives returned to their designated homes or duties. Here we see 56078 with a convoy bound for Leafminster RTC, heading through Baxton. The 56 now gives it large up the bank towards Leafminster, passing through Dovey Junction. On the same date of the 5th of November 2023, 37428 and 37906 are seen returning to Renford to continue LRL's RHTT Diagrams. On the 10th of November, LRL's Class 68s were called in to assist the Renford RHTT diagram. Here they are, passing Backwell, bound for Renford Yard. The LRL-operated RHTT diagram during the GCR autumn season began with a shakedown run operated by 37428 and 37906. Here they are seen departing St Ashcott with the 3 Sierra 10 Renford to Renford test run. The test run started at Renford Yard and ran to Seaforth, where it would reverse, and then run up the single track line to St Ashcott, where it would then reverse again and head back down to Renford. On the 4th of October, the diagram officially started, now running as 3 Juliet 40, Renford to Renford. During this time, the LRL RHTT pool, known as the LRLT, was opened with 37428 and 37906 being the only two members at this point. The train passes Newenden Harbour after reversing at Seaforth. The use of 37906 on this run was criticised due to the loco being classified as non-standard, and therefore LRL were not prepared to use 906 throughout the whole season. To combat this, LRL's sole Class 20 2304 was being prepped at Leafminster RTC to eventually enter the RHTT pool. After covering the line to Seaforth, the train begins to enter the single-track section at Brimsley. The train would wait here for a passing service. During the early days of the season, the train would cover the line to St Ashcot, then return back down to Giles and then reverse back to Renford via Bexley Junction. An extra part of the diagram will be added later on in the season. The 6th of October saw the same pair on 3 Juliet 40. However, on this occasion, the train had set off early, meaning a relatively rare occurrence of the train passing Ashbury, heading back to Renford in the daylight. The following day, and 2304 was considered ready for the RHTT. Because of this, 37906 left the LRLT pool and ran light on 0 Zulu 96 from Renford to Hestercombe Works. However, unfortunately, at the last minute, a problem arose with 2304, and its run to Renford was cancelled, leading LRL to hire in a replacement. The replacement came in the form of Rydal Rail's 37429, which was dispatched on the 0 Zulu 37 Hestercombe Works to Renford Yard. The following day not only saw the first use of 37429 on the RHTT, but also the first of many Sunday-only diagrams. The most common was 3 Juliet 41 and 3 Juliet 42, which was an altered version of 3 Juliet 40, missing out Seaforth, and instead covering the Lanfield North branch, as well as the branch to Ashcot Quarry. (37429) leads the train onto the Lanfield North branch. Note the currently disused tram lines on the right. As 67002 sits in the platform, 3 Juliet 41 arrives with 37428 leading. Unlike 3 Juliet 40, the train will continue past Ashcot and cover the line to Ashcot Quarry. Ashcott Quarry, the train would reverse, now under 3 Juliet 42, back to Renford. (37429 and 37428) was seen again on the 13th, this time on 3 Juliet 40, and is passing Newington Town en route to Seaforth. The train now departs Seaforth, with 37428 leading, carrying the infamous Leafbusters headboard. Due to a late departure from Giles, the run missed out the Ashcott branch and instead covered the section from Bexley Junction to Goughlin. This part would soon be added to the main diagram. Finally, on the 14th of October, 2304 was deemed serviceable and successfully ran from Leafminster to Renford. The following day, 304 was paired up with 37428 on another Sunday-only run, this time 3 Zulu 41, Renford to Renford via Fatherwell. At Fatherwell, 37428, which had been yet to be taken off the set, departs. During the run, it was noted that 2304 wasn't really behaving itself, with a distinct lack of power, which led to 428 doing most of the work. The train crawls up to the outer signal at Bestbridge to await the departure of a service in the station. Zulu 41 also included the one and only time the RHTT was pathed via the Capchester line, and is seen under the roof at Milbury Square. On their way back to Renford via Goughlin, Falkingham and Giles Mount, the train halts at Minestow to await a signal. At Giles Mount, the train departs for Bexley and then Renford. The next day, and 3748 and 2304 were booked on 3 Juliet 40. The train departed at 1834 from Renford, with 3748 leading, and arrived at Giles at 1840. When preparing to leave, 2304 failed to power and was declared a failure. With no other loco available, 3 Juliet 40 was cancelled, and HBRF Class 20s 2401 and 2402 were dispatched on 1 Zulu 99 from HW. After collecting 2304, the convoy departs from Giles, now under 0 Zulu 20, to Hestercombe Works. 2304 was removed from the pool and would not return for the rest of the season. In its place came newcomer 68136, which had entered the pool earlier in the week. Here 37428 and 68136 enter Giles with the Sunday only Free Juliet 41. The LRL 68s were not originally intended for the diagram and had been pushed into service relatively quickly. This led to a few teething troubles on a couple of runs. As darkness descends, 3748 leads the train back from Lanfield North. Problems with the points outside of Goffland led to the train having to pass through Giles and up through Minestow Yard towards Ashcott. After returning from Ashcott, the train would reverse at Renford to cover the Cord up to Goffland. Sadly, the technical problems at Goffland continued and the train was forced to stop in Goffland station overnight. The next morning, and 68136 leads the 6 Zulu 68 Goffland to Renford with 37428 trailing on the rear. At Falkingham, the train awaits the signal for the line to Renford. The train arrives into Renford Yard. Here 37428 would be taken off and would head to Hestercombe with 37906 for the open day. Jumping to the 12th of November, and 428 and 906 had returned back to Renford following the open day. Despite the reluctance to use 37906, the slug appeared on the Sunday only Free Juliet 41 with 68136, making it the first run without 428 in the season. At Giles, the 68 leads the train to Fatherwell. The trip to Ashcott Quarry had been abandoned, and the train covered a majority of the path on Free Juliet 41, with Free Juliet 42 later being cancelled. Teething troubles with the 68s continued, and LRL decided to continue the diagram using solely Class 37s. With 37906 having limited use, LRL resorted to hiring in once again. This time the hire-in came in the form of H&RC 37607, which with a returning 37428 lead Free Juliet 40 past Bexley Junction. On the 22nd of November, 428 and 607 were booked on Free Juliet 40. Towards the end of its run towards Goughlin, 37607 struck an object on the track. Concerns whether 607 was damaged led to the train once again being kept overnight at Goughlin. The next day, and 607 was deemed fit to be taken back to Renford for further inspections. Here, 428 leads the train on the 7 Alpha 35 Goughlin to Renford. Once at Renford, 37607 was taken off the set and 37906 took its place. Here the Slug and 428 depart Renford on another one-off run, this time Free Juliet 39. Note 37906 carrying the Ruston Away headboard, perhaps hinting to the fact that despite not wanting to, the Ruston would always turn back up on the set. As the sun sets, a very filthy 37428 arrives into Lanfield North, running slightly late. After reversing at Giles, the train passes Morsfoot High Level en route to Fatherwell. On the 26th of November, LRL's latest tractor, 37407, passes Dubby Junction on the 0 Zulu 37 Crewe Gresty Bridge to Saltmarsh TMD. (37407) Blackpool Tower was purchased by LRL in order to add an extra standard Class 37 to its books. At this time, the 37 is en route to the SRS depot at Saltmarsh to officially register as an LRL loco. Our final view of the RHTT sees 37407, which had been immediately allocated to the pool following its registration, and 37428 pass Morsfoot on 3 Juliet 40 Renford to Renford. Despite some mechanical issues, the Renford Busters seem to be an overall success. Whether LRL will continue to operate the diagram following the end of the 2023 season, only time will tell. We'll keep you posted. Keep an eye out for the next edition of VideoSim, where we see the final runs of the LRL RHTT Diagrams. We also take a look into more Rydal rail workings, with their resident Class 37s and hired-in locomotives from other companies. Also featured is the St Durley Sprinter Rail Tour taken by Heritage Class 201 Thumper unit. A look at general GCR freight from both past and present. Steam and diesel action on heritage railways. Heading over to the BLS universe, we see Santa specials on the Swankadge Railway. Various locos and stock moves featuring veteran mainline locomotives. And the final days of 2023 LRL RHTTs on the Wherry Lines. And finally, some shunting at Penzance utilising the veteran Class 08 shunters. All to be seen next time on VideoSim.